Oh boy, we've got more updates on Donald Trump's pointless war, the peace president's pointless war. Now, with his Department of War and his Secretary of War, he was talking a big game. You know, Donald Trump was like, we're gonna go in, it's gonna be a quick in and out operation, we're gonna annihilate Iran, we're gonna take all their oil. He was talking a big game. Then he started to, no doubt, realize that essentially destroying the entire government of a nation that we have been trying to prevent from having nuclear capabilities is a lot harder said than done. And Trump's now had to bite the bullet, admit to the American people that this operation, he won't call it a war, operation, will take at least until December, maybe longer. All the while, you've also got him begging NATO for help. He is now begging NATO for help to take the Strait of Hormuz. Can't make this up. The same NATO who he has been testy with in regards to Ukraine and Russia, the same NATO that he has endlessly shit-talked and said we don't even need. That same NATO he is now begging for help. Mind you, the same NATO made up of nations that hate Donald Trump because of the shit he was doing less than a year ago with his tariffs, trying to strong-arm everybody at the table with his tariff policies. Meanwhile, he's like, okay, guys, we're all cool, right? You're gonna help us with our Middle Eastern invasion, right? What do you mean you won't help? What do you mean? I thought we're America, you gotta help us. What are you talking about?
Continue our coverage today
anyway, whoa, sorry, that started playing on its own. So that aside, Donald Trump is in panic mode, and it's really, really funny. So let's go ahead and look into where exactly he's running into hiccups in his nonsense, pointless war that he started out of nowhere for no reason.
We continue our coverage today of the war with Iran as Donald Trump issues a stark warning to some of America's allies, demanding they help secure a critical shipping lane as his war against Iran continues to rattle the world economy. The American president has warned NATO that the military...
Dude, apparently, like, they're like, gas in Canada right now is like $5 a gallon or something. It's like... It's gotten, like, really, really expensive in Canada. And in America, but apparently Canada is in a really rough spot with gas prices right now. Are there any drivers in Canada right now that want to confirm what the gas prices are looking like up in the maple land, the land of maple trees? Bro keeps looking like Biff Tannen in that photo. Y'all realize that Biff Tannen was explicitly... canonically based on Donald Trump, right? Y'all realize that the villain of the Back to the Future movies is Donald Trump. Like, decades before he would become president, Donald Trump was the villain of the Back to the Future movies.
Alliance faces what he called a very bad future if its members fail to help open the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, the international airport in Dubai has resumed limited operations after an Iranian drone struck nearby. Saudi Arabia says it's intercepted more than 60 drones as Iran continues to target Gulf countries. Israel says its army has begun what it calls targeted ground operations against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. The IDF has also announced in the last few minutes...
I'm going to be honest. Israel doing ground operations scares me a lot less because I associate Israel's, like, mass destruction of civilian infrastructure with their, like, air, like things falling from the sky and raining hellfire. So the idea of a ground operation, I you know, at least that seems a little bit more targeted, right?
Wide-scale wave of strikes on Tehran and other Iranian cities, including Shiraz. Well, Japan has become the first G7 country to start releasing oil reserves to ease the pressure on fuel prices. Well, let's start our coverage now with this report from Lauren Moss.
More than 2 weeks into this war...
Dude, I'm not gonna lie, this lady has the most BBC reporter British accent ever. I'm willing to bet that, like, The moment she stepped into the interview room and spoke, they hired her. Because listen to her talk again and tell me that she was not born to be a BBC reporter.
To ease the pressure on fuel prices. Well, let's start our coverage now with this report from Lauren Moss.
Like when you play a video game and there's like a fake BBC news report about like a zombie apocalypse taking over the world or something, the voice actress that they hire to voice the BBC reporter would sound like this. Like the very, very posh London accent, I guess is what I'm recognizing here. If any Englanders in chat want to tell me what I'm picking up here.
More than 2 weeks into this war, still no sign of when it'll end. The questions continue about how long it'll last and its impact. On a flight back to Washington in the early hours, President Trump says the US has now asked other countries for help reopening the vital shipping lane in which about a fifth of the world's oil passes.
We're always there for NATO. We're helping them with Ukraine. And many it's got a notion.
I'm not gonna lie, with all those buttons done, he's kind of looking like Kim Jong-un. I'm not the only one getting that vibe, right?
Fifth of the world's oil passes.
He's also like, I'm not gonna lie, I want to see Kim Jong-un and Trump step on scales side by side. I want to see. Because looking at him here, bro's looking like he's put on even more pounds. Not trying to fat shame anybody in chat or anybody who's overweight, alright? Fat is just water filling up. Everybody's got fat cells. How fat you are is just how much water is filling up those fat cells, how many times they burst, and essentially multiplied, and then continue to inflate with water again. You can burn it off. It's just cells. But Donald Trump has clearly put on a few more pounds, and I'm not gonna lie, him and Kim on scales next to each other, I really want to see that. I really want to see what they weigh in at. I feel like they're in the same ballpark. Trump's tall and chunky, and Kim is short and chunky. I feel like Kim's chunkier than Trump for sure, but he's shorter. Trump's taller. Trump's like 6'4", so he gets to stretch out a lot of his fat. Like the taller you are, the fatter you get to be without looking fat. Donald Trump looks fat and is like 6'4". So if he was actually like average height, he would be way fatter looking. So I have to imagine he's carrying more weight than it even looks like he is on his frame. I want to see. I want to know. Side by side, weighing in.
We're always there for NATO. We're helping them with Ukraine. And many, it's got a notion in between us. Doesn't affect us, but we've helped them. It'd be interesting to see what country wouldn't help us with a very small endeavor, which is just keeping the strait open, and by comparison.
Sir Keir Starmer had a call with the US president last night about the Strait of Hormuz to end what Downing Street has described as the disruption to global shipping. A number of ships are...
Yes, Trump, you did this. Notice how like a few weeks ago there was no threat to global shipping in the Strait of Hormuz? Like no one was talking about that until you went and did the thing. We all went to bed, and the next morning we were at war. You did that, Trump.
Reported to have been attacked since the conflict began, and there are concerns that Iran has placed mines in the depths of the water. The narrow strait has been effectively closed for more than a fortnight. Meanwhile, this weekend, the bombardment...
Oh my God. Did she just say fortnight?
Across the Middle East continued. Flames engulfed the main research centre of Iran's space agency. Buildings became shells. In Israel...
No, but this is very serious. The Strait of Hormuz is responsible for like 15% or something of world trade goes through it. Something pretty significant. I forget the exact percentage, but it would definitely be a pretty big cork in the machine. Wouldn't be as extreme as like when the Panama Canal got blocked or the threat to the Red Sea shipping lanes. Whenever Hezbollah was like fucking up the trade in the Red Sea, but it'd definitely be a problem.
The night skies once again were lit up with rockets fired on them, and shrapnel fell from above. Yesterday, President Trump said Iran wanted to negotiate
20%. Oh, it's 20% of our energy. So, like, I'm assuming a lot of oil gets transported through the Strait of Hormuz. So it's like 20% of our energy comes through there, basically. Damn.
Something the regime has dismissed.
It's not a war of survival. We are
They're not ours, but
stable
the
and
world's.
strong enough. We are only defending our people from this act of aggression, and we don't see any reason why we should talk with Americans, because we were talking with them when they decided to attack us, and that was for the second time.
This morning,
That is true. Donald, they were also at the negotiating table about the Iran nuclear deal, and Donald Trump backed us out of that in his first term, by the way. The American people voted for this. Never forget, Trump showed that he wanted to do this in his first term, and the American people elected him again. They should have known he'd do this. He basically bragged that he wanted to do this.
flights at Dubai Airport have been temporarily suspended after a fire caused by a drone attack. No one is believed to have been injured. The UK government has announced £5 million in emergency funding for humanitarian relief in Lebanon. The health ministry there says 850 people have been killed since the 2nd of March and thousands displaced from their homes. There's no let-up yet in sight for the lives.
I can't wait for when eventually this gets resolved and then Donald Trump starts taking a victory lap for unfucking the situation he fucked up.
Of so many caught in the crossfire of this war. Lauren Moss, BBC News.
Well, a drone strike has sparked a major fire near Dubai International Airport, forcing a temporary suspension of flights at one of the world's busiest aviation hubs. Our correspondent Azadeh Mashiri has more now from Dubai.
The fire has been contained and no injuries have been reported so far, but some airlines like Emirates have said that their flights have been cancelled altogether today, though there is a gradual resumption for some other flights. But this is only a day after the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said that Iran was not targeting any civilian or residential infrastructure. And yet today, the UAE has had to respond to this drone-related incident at its international airport. A missile fell on top of a car, killing a civilian of Palestinian origin.
Dude, what's so fucked up about this is how often, like, think about that for a minute, chat. Iran is sympathetic to Gaza and Palestinians, insofar as Israel is an enemy of Iran. Undoubtedly, right? Iran launches attacks on U.S. allies retaliatorily for Israel and the U.S.'s actions, and a Palestinian in Dubai gets caught in the crossfire. There is something so horrifically, cruelly, darkly poetic about that like, regardless of which side is shooting the gun, the civilians that really don't deserve it, who are like the only good guy in the story, always end up getting hurt, always end up losing in wars like this, in any war really.
And there's been another fire that's broken out at a major oil terminal in Fujairah. Again, they've said that they've contained that fire and that there have been no injuries. But this will infuriate leaders here who feel they've been pulled into this war unjustly and that there's no let-up in the amount of effort they have to do to keep protecting this image of safety and stability in a volatile region. So the last we've heard from the Ministry of Defense is that they are responding to these missile and drone threats from Iran, and there certainly isn't any let-up for the region here.
Well, Israel has said that it's begun limited and targeted land operations against the Iran-backed Hezbollah in Lebanon. Our Middle East correspondent Yolan Nell.
You know what this feels like? It feels like Trump wasn't happy that he actually managed to get Hamas to chill for a bit. Granted, Hamas does do that. Hamas will go into like a temporary I guess era of like passivity while they reestablish and prepare to like engage in attacks against Israel again. They've done that before. And that's why October 7th was such a big deal. It'd been a couple years since a large or major attack by Hamas on Israel, and then out of nowhere, there was a big one. A fucking big one, followed by like a cascade of attacks from Hamas. It was like a long planned, organized, prepared for thing. And interestingly, Israel had intel that October 7th was going to happen nearly a year before it did and wrote it off. Many have chosen to believe, and I don't necessarily think they're wrong, it's just that's an interpretation of that knowledge, of that info. Many have chosen with that info to believe that Israel knew October 7th was going to happen and chose to do nothing about it because they believed the mass death caused by Hamas would give them political public justification for finishing what they started with the Palestinians in taking the entire West Bank and completely consuming Gaza. Many people have chosen to believe that. I don't know if I do. I would be more inclined to believe that Israel's government and intelligence was just willing to throw that away as a possibility. But it's definitely suspicious and convenient for Netanyahu.
Give us this update from Jerusalem.
Well, the Israeli military announced this morning that it had already begun this expansion of its ground.
But what's interesting is things were calm. Things had been like gotten pretty calm recently. Like the last 6 months, there have been far less hostilities between Hamas and Israel compared to the 6 months before or a year before. And then out of nowhere, Donald Trump starts hostilities with Iran again. He's done this before, just out of nowhere, bombs an Iranian leader. This time he bombed the Iranian leader. And now we're at war, and now everything is like Lebanon's getting bombed. Fucking everything is back to how it feels like it's back to how it was a year plus ago. You know, obviously it's not Gaza that's getting bombed into nothing right now, but it's expanded. We're back with like Iran and Israel firing at each other. We've got Iran firing at U.S. allies. It feels like things got too calm and Trump wanted to heat things back up because I think his goal is to use the time he has as president, whether he plans for this to be his last term or his second of multiple more. He wants to engage in empire building. That's what this feels like. Like he is out to get natural resources and land and to put regimes in his pocket.
Operations there, saying that it is targeting key Hezbollah strongholds in the south of Lebanon. There are 3 divisions that are already operating in the south of the country for the Israeli military. That would seem to be thousands of troops. We don't have any confirmation of exact numbers, and they're saying that 2 more divisions are going to be joining this operation in the coming days. Now, the Israeli military is calling this a defensive maneuver, saying that it's to protect Israeli civilians living in the north of the country. But of course, for the Lebanese, this is another blow to their sovereignty. It's a very worrying development.
Every day that this gets dragged on, at the very least, we're not starting war with Cuba. Because Trump's just been outright with the fact that Cuba is next. He's already said that he plans to go after Greenland. Who knows when he's going to throw that one, actually execute that plan, if he is going to do it at all. Who knows? But apparently Cuba is next. He's outright said Cuba is next.
And we're hearing also news of Israeli strikes having had an impact and having destroyed the airplane in Tehran used by the former supreme leader, Yolam.
Listen, I low-key hope that Trump does invade Cuba and does it so horribly that it outdoes anything that, the Bay of Pigs did to, make Cubans hate communism hate Democrats, hate like just the way that Cubans are really just goes back heavily to the Cuban Missile Crisis and how the U.S. handled it at the time, and how a lot of like Cuban immigrants to America, the reasons they left Cuba, and why like they're very politically opposed to communism. How many Florida Cubans voted for Trump? I think it was like Latinos voted for Trump at a shockingly high rate. But I believe it was Cubans who voted for Trump at the highest rate, like by a lot. And that's because Cuban immigrants in America tend to be a lot more conservative.
What more are you hearing?
But like, imagine Trump just absolutely, like, just fucks up anything to do with invading Cuba, like really does it bad, like gets a lot of Cubans killed or something, and now Cubans never want to vote Republican again. Like, they're hardcore Democrats now. That would be phenomenal. If Trump was so bad, he radicalized the Cuban American population against Republicans, undoing decades old damage, that would be phenomenal. Genuinely glorious. And also, tragic, but, law of equivalent exchange and all that.
About what the Israelis are saying about this particular strike in Iran.
Well, they're saying that they targeted this aircraft used by the late Supreme Leader.
He's already starving Cubans? Well, yeah, but Republican Cuban Americans are in favor of that because they see it as starving a communist regime, to death so that the people of Cuba can be free from communism. But if Trump is outright bombing Cubans, I feel like the mood's going to turn.
Because they say other top Iranian officials would also use it. It was used, they say, as well by military officials, particularly on visits to allied countries, and including visits which weapons were procured. So that's the reason the Israelis are giving for targeting it. In general, they're saying that they are continuing to go after missile launches, and there's one Israeli report saying that 70% of these across Iran have now been destroyed or put beyond use.
We continue.
Damn. Whew. It's kind of crazy how we live in an era now where, like, seeing HD video of a war zone is not even that crazy. Like, I see HD videos of war zones on a daily basis now, and it's no longer impressive. Go back 3 years ago, and it was impressive. It was a new thing. But now, there's so much war happening everywhere, all at once, in this modern era of tech, always having a phone on you, always having a HD camera available at all times, that you're just able to see war footage everywhere. I saw a video yesterday that was some Ukrainian soldiers taking some Russian soldiers captive and, questioning them, searching them, and then giving them cigarettes and letting them call their families on their on secure phones, and let them know, hey, I'm all right. I'm not going to be killed. I'm not going to be tortured, but I got captured. I'm not going to be on the battlefield anymore. You might not hear from me for a bit, but just know I'm not in a war zone getting shot. And honestly, getting captured by the Ukrainians, if you're a Russian soldier, might be the best thing that can happen to you, because they're just going to put you in a facility. They're going to keep you in basically a POW camp, but that kind of evokes pretty nasty connotations. And you're not going to have to be out fighting for Putin. So generally the families are kind of happy about it. So that was nice to see. The video was kind of oddly wholesome. Because, the Russian and Ukrainian soldiers were just, at the end of it, were just smoking cigarettes together and just chatting. It was like, they're friends now. But yeah, the amount of war footage that I see on a daily basis now, absolutely insane. What a crazy time we're living in. And a tragic time that we're living in. This is just so normalized now. Actual, real videos, HD videos of war are, well, there's the 100th I've seen this week. Anyway, folks, if you enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, educational, enjoyable in any way whatsoever, consider leaving a like and a comment down below. It really does help a ton, and I appreciate it immensely. It's also totally free, by the way. And of course, if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and the roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website. Or if you want to support the channel for free and, get notified whenever I go live or upload new stuff, follow my social medias, join my fan Discord, and be a part of the community. You'll get notified when I upload or go live. You'll not miss anything, and that's where it's at. Hopefully I'll see y'all around. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video.